dedicated to helping business owners excel in the digital world. This is The Path to Growth. Welcome back to another episode of The Path to Growth. On this episode, I'm going to be discussing why it's important to create content, plus how creating one piece of content can lead to hundreds of pieces of content that you can use over either a month or over a few months. Okay, so the first item I'm going to be discussing is what is a piece of content. So a lot of people probably are confused a little bit because they see different things on the internet. But basically a piece of content could be anything from a blog post to a tweet about the blog post. So you want like a big piece of content to be able to chop up. For me personally, I like to write a lot. So one of my techniques that I do is I write a blog post that's about, maybe 750 or 1,000 words, which isn't really that many words. And what you could do with that is you can literally take pieces of that post and you can create posts based off of those pieces. And you could do this a few ways. One way is you can take an image off the internet, maybe like a stock photo, or you could make an image. You could make an image and use the body of the post, the caption, I should say, of the post can be snippets from the blog post. So you don't have to create brand new content when you're creating you already made the content. You made it. You have the blog post. That's like your Bible for creating your posts for the month, for the next few weeks, for the day. If you do a lot of posts in a day, it's up to you. And then you can create different topics based off of the part of the blog post that you write about. So let me give you a perfect example. I recently wrote an article about Google Analytics, how you can monitor your website. It's called the top 3 ways to tell if your website is making you money. And if you were to go on Google, you're probably not going to find that article right away because my blog is, it's not the highest ranking blog and Google's not going to pick up the SEO right away. So you need to make content to make people aware. So that's when social media comes into play. If you're not going to use ads, this is when social media and organic reach comes into play. So what I did was I created my blog post and I looked at the headers, the titles that I have on there. I have 3 major titles. And one of those titles, I extracted it. I think one of them was called Analytics, right? So Analytics was a big deal for a post. So basically what I did was that I took analytics, the word analytics, and I put that into 5 or 6 different images. Almost like it's like an overlay. I don't know if you ever use Canva. It's one of the tools in my 4 tools that are free that you could use to grow your business. And basically what you can do is you can they have templates on there, and you can take a template. I took one of the templates, and I put analytics as basically one of the larger words in the template so that it stands out. People know what the topic is. If the photo or if the image is not obvious right away. And basically I put a little snippet of that topic, right? I looked at the analytics topic and I have about 2 or 3 paragraphs, and I took maybe a sentence and I put that into a text element on this same post, and that's it. And now I have one post. And that one post, you format it for Instagram, for Facebook, for LinkedIn, for Pinterest especially. Pinterest is crazy good when it comes to blogs. And you could even use something like I have to see if it's still free. It was free when I used to use it. It's called Lumen 5. I'm gonna put a link to it in this blog article when I write this blog article. I'm gonna put a link to it, and I'll put one in the podcast description too. But basically, what Lumen 5 does is it does exactly what I'm telling you, except it does it automatically. Now, it's good and bad that it does this because, it's good because if you don't have someone doing this, they will do it for you. But it's only videos, as far as I know, and you really got to pay attention to it because what they'll do is they use artificial intelligence to take out snippets, and I don't want to go down the path of explaining how that works, but long story short, you're not really designing it, so it's not you who's making it. It's not going to be something that you're able to plan out. The strategy that I'm giving you, you're going to be able to plan this out yourself over the course of a month. You're going to pick, right, there's 4 weeks, so I'm going to do, this week I'm going to focus on analytics. Next week I'm going to focus on, the second section in there. The third week I'll focus on the third section, and then the last week I'll do a jumble of all of them. That's something you could do yourself. And it's very simple using the technique I just explained. And you could do it over and over and over. And you could do it for, you could do it as many times as you want. People aren't going to see all the content you put out there anyway. So this is good evergreen content to put out. So if you have the time, I highly recommend, even if you got a copywriter to write you a blog post. If you're a business owner, so you're not always going to be a writer who's going to be able to write this post out. And just because you don't know copyright doesn't mean you can't write. I mean, if you have that ability, you can write. I'm personally, I didn't major in English literature in college or copywriting, but I like to write. So if I like to write and my content's out there and people like it, what's the difference? So what you can do is you can get somebody else to write an article. Like if you're a salon, right, or if you're a restaurant, you can have a copywriter write an article about how, these are the top 10 safety measures you can use in order to protect yourself, when you're dining in a restaurant, or these are the top 10 COVID safe things to look for in a restaurant. And they can write about your precautions that you're taking so people see, oh, okay, this is great and all, but does this restaurant have it? And now you can feature that. You could make 10 pieces of creative content based off of just that alone. Just the titles of each of those 10 elements of the blog post alone can be 10 pieces of content. And you didn't even dive into the actual meat of the blog post. So you have 10 pieces of content. You're now putting this on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Pinterest. Your fans are seeing this, and it has to do with your brand. At the end of the day, if you're telling this person, I want you to write about my restaurant, and we have these 10 precautions, people are going to see that, and they're going to be interested. And then they're going to say, oh, wow, this restaurant does that? Okay, that's great. And now they're going to dine there. It doesn't have to be for a restaurant. It could be for anything. It could be for whatever topic about your place makes you unique, and either you write about or you get somebody else to write about who's a better writer than you that will explain it better. You personally can chop that up and make it into anything, even a podcast. You could do a podcast too. Most of the time, I put my thoughts into a podcast first, and then I write a blog post because I'm able to speak this out and actually get more ideas that way. Whatever floats your boat. And you don't have to limit where you're putting this content either. I mean, nobody really knows what will drive traffic unless you try it first. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't cost anything for you to put up a post except your time. So if it takes you an extra 30 seconds to create a pin on Pinterest, but you don't think it's going to perform well, it doesn't matter. It took you 30 seconds to put that up, and you never know, it might perform better. And the way you can tell is the last episode when I spoke about 3 ways to monitor your website. One of them explains how web traffic is such a huge part of monitoring the income that your website is generating for you. Because your website can only generate income if either Google is leading it there, you're directing people there, or if something like social media is directing people there. Otherwise it's going to sit there and collect dust, especially if it's not SEO, which is search engine optimization, optimized for keyword rankings. It's just going to sit there and collect dust because no one's going to know what's there. It's going to be on page 56 on Google or something. But in any event, that's really the secret formula. I mean, there is no real, there's no magic button to push. You have to just create something that, and if you don't know what to write about, you have to think, what if somebody like Newsday, right, or the Daily News or New York Post, what if they came to your establishment and they said, I want to write an article on you, because I like what you guys are doing here. Can you give me some bullet points as to what you think is most unique about you guys? Why would somebody come here? You have to think about what would you read and what would make you come to your own establishment. Once you have that figured out, then it's a no-brainer. Then the ideas will start coming to you. Or like I said, you hire a copywriter. You pay. It doesn't have to be an agency. I know a lot of people right now. An agency, you can't really afford an agency at the moment, or you're just not ready yet. It's post-COVID, meaning the worst part of COVID, because we're still in COVID. So it's basically post-2020, and everyone's still recovering. The year's only halfway over. So, for you to pay some copywriter a few $100 to write a blog post might be worth it. Because if you spent that for something in the newspaper or flyers, okay, those get... Do you understand that when someone receives a flyer in the mail, I literally just threw out 4 flyers out of the 5 pieces of mail that I got. I literally ripped them up and threw them out. So now they're sitting in the garbage, and now they're going to go to a landfill somewhere. Whereas if you spent that same amount of money on digital content, it doesn't go away. You ever hear the term when they say be careful what you say on the internet, because there's nothing that is hidden on the internet. It is 100% a fucking fact. There is nothing hidden on the internet. So when something is that powerful, why wouldn't you want your content to be on there for people to never be able to destroy? Like, do you understand when someone receives mail, they're not reading it? Or they maybe are reading it, and they're throwing it out because they're like, this is not relevant to me, or they don't even know what else you offer because they're not going to give you the time of day. They're just going to say no, unless it's a food menu. If it's a food menu, I'm keeping it. But if it's anything else, I might not keep it, and I might not visit your website because I don't give a shit. Meanwhile, if you put out an ad that doesn't work, you can put out multiple variations of that ad under the same ad spend, and I'm going to see a new ad. And it's not going to cost you any more money because you're within that same budget. You're going to literally show me another one of your images. Facebook's going to show me. And if I like it, then you got my attention, and you didn't have to send out another postcard and waste another month. Time is money. Digital is quick. You could find out within a day or 2 days whether or not an ad is working. And if it's not working, guess what? You pause it, you change the creative, or you give it multiple variations of a creative, and that's it. You call it a day. Then you restart your ad again. It's that simple. You don't have to go through this. Oh, it's got to go to the post office. It's got to be sent out. You need to buy stamps. I mean, what is all that shit? There's no reason for it. So, back to the topic at hand, as far as actually driving people to your blog post or to your website. this is one of the best forms, and it's tried and true. You can take that blog post and you can do anything you want with it. You might not want to send out emails right away. It depends on what's going on with, like just recently today at the Apple Developer Conference, Apple announced that pretty soon people can opt out of telling your email provider whether or not they read an email. So what this means is that in MailChimp or Constant Contact or iContact, any one of these guys, you're going to know, oh, my open rate is, 12%. Okay? You might not know that in the future, because if the majority of your clientele is iOS, which is the iPhone and Apple product, Apple's going to prevent them from telling these providers if they opened an email or not. So your email open rate might be more like 1 to 2%, not knowing. One of the biggest platforms to be on right now, and it's one of the hardest to create content for if you're not an engaging person, is TikTok. I myself are not on video as much as I want to be, but I still create as much content as I can for TikTok. And one of the ways I do it is you don't have to be on camera. I literally hold my phone up to my laptop and I record myself, typing or I put the post up and I'll scroll through the post and the TikTok will record it and I'll put like a fancy song in the background and that's it. And that's my post. And I'll get, 300 to 600 views, which might not seem like a lot, but you tell me the last time you put up a video on Instagram or on Facebook, how many views did you get? And I don't judge likes because it's very difficult to judge likes. It's at the end of the day, I read content all the time on Facebook and I never like the post afterwards. I don't know what it is. So not everybody will like the post, even though they read it. What's important, and one of the most important metrics that you have to pay attention to for your blog and for your post on either TikTok or Facebook or Pinterest, is the shares. Because if someone is sharing this content, that means it's no different than word of mouth. That means that they're telling someone that they liked the article. So that's one of the most important metrics that you need to pay attention to. Stop focusing on just likes. Instagram just recently gave users the ability to turn off whether or not they could view likes. That's telling you something, that these media giants are noticing that either people aren't hitting that button as much as they used to, or that the metric doesn't matter and people aren't posting stuff that they want to post because they're worried about that. Post what you want. Because when you post what you want, it's more authentic to the people that are reading. They're going to know whether or not you're bullshitting or not. Might not be on your post immediately, but after a couple of months, they're going to catch on. They're going to go, oh, this guy's full of shit. He only did that because of the likes. They're going to know it's because of the likes. So stop focusing on that. You want to focus on content that you know is going to be re-shareable. Because when it's re-shareable, okay, that's how things go viral. That's how you get more views and things go viral. And people leave comments. You want people to leave comments on your posts and on the actual blog article. Oh, hey, this was really helpful. Because Google is now going to go through that and they're going to index your page and they're going to say, oh, wow, look at this. Someone said it was really helpful. Just got to be careful about that spam. There's a lot of spam out there. So you got to make sure you have something like Kismet. It's a WordPress plugin. You want that on your blog. Or you could blog on Medium, medium.com. It's basically a giant WordPress for everybody. And it's another great place to put blog posts on. You could change the words around a little bit where it's different content. This way Google doesn't penalize you for duplicate content. But the beauty about Medium is that Medium is a discovery platform. It is a social media platform. I probably read one to two Medium articles per day, and I mean, the people that are writing these blog posts, the experience that they have, there is no amount of college tuition that can pay for the knowledge that you gain from a platform like Medium. I mean, you're talking about someone like me. I'm a software engineer at heart, so I have software engineers that work at Amazon, Google, Facebook, and they're documenting and they're putting their knowledge in posts. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Doesn't matter who your college professor is. You got somebody who you know for a fact, this guy created Gmail, or this guy invented this thing that I use every day of my life. So he's got to know what he's doing. And he put out a blog post with his knowledge or his experience and on something that mattered to him that he thought would matter to somebody else in his industry. And if it helps you, you're going to follow him. So, that's something you have to think about. Your reputation grows as you put out content out there. Like I said, you can get, a ghostwriter to write about this and you put your name on it. There's nothing wrong with that because it's still going to be your knowledge. You're still telling these people, this is you. If you don't plan to be an influencer, it's not a big deal to have a ghostwriter because for a fact you care about your restaurant making sales, putting food on the table for your staff. That's what you care about. If you don't need a personal brand, then hire a ghostwriter, have them create blog posts for your website that have to do with topics that you want your customers and your future customers to know makes you unique. Once you have that, you're golden. You can create content forever. You literally create so much content from one blog post, you're not going to have enough time to keep up with it, I'm telling you. And then you make that into a podcast episode. Then you could do something like an interview, do video. I mean, there's just so many options. So that's what I want to end with today is the fact that you can create content and you can distribute one piece of content and it'll go a long way. And you do not have to act on camera. You don't have to speak on a podcast if you don't want to. It could be through written form that you don't even have to write. But if you are somewhat creative, you can create posts on it. And you don't have to be a graphic designer. You don't have to be a graphic designer, even if you are a graphic designer, to use something like Canva. It's very intuitive. So if you rather just grab pictures off the internet and use those as your blog image and put a little snippet, like one line that says, hey guys, just put out this blog post about, the top 7 hair techniques you can do in order to better straighten your hair, or the top 7 products I use in my salon to help with straightening your hair, or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. You put that out, you have 7 pieces of content off the bat. So I'm going to have a few links in the description of the podcast, and you're going to see a blog post. I'm not sure when, but if you follow our social media, which is just search for RJ Media Studios, you'll see the blue RJ logo. It'll be in the podcast description as well. And as always, thank you for listening. As always, thank you guys for listening. And if you think this episode has brought you some value, you can text the word podcast to 516-447-5332, and you will be the first to know about new episodes. And you can even ask us questions about the podcast or about digital marketing in general.